Did you know that some of the foods we eat every single day, foods that seem completely harmless, can actually turn into real health dangers right in your own kitchen? It all comes down to how they're stored. And listen closely, because we're not talking about those highly processed items or things loaded with preservatives. No, I'm talking about wholesome, natural foods, the very ones many of us lovingly place into the fridge, believing we're protecting them and keeping them fresh. But here's the unsettling truth. This common practice could unknowingly be generating dangerous toxins within your food, actively destroying vital nutrients, and even silently increasing your personal risk of serious conditions like cancer, diabetes, and metabolic disorders. It's a subtle shift from protection to peril that you simply cannot afford to ignore. Think about it. Have you ever tucked raw potatoes into the chilly depths of your refrigerator, convinced they'd last longer there? Or perhaps you've seen a tomato just beginning to soften and thought, into the fridge it goes. And what about that fresh loaf of bread, nestled in the cold to ward off mold? If any of this sounds familiar, then you're not alone. But it's crucial to understand that these seemingly innocent habits could actually be doing far more harm to your well-being than any good. In this eye-opening presentation, I'm going to reveal the often hidden, detrimental effects that refrigeration can have on these specific foods, and most importantly, I'll show you exactly what you need to do, simple changes you can make today, to truly protect your health and the goodness in your food. My name is Kenji Oshiro, and this is the Global Health Guide channel. Make sure to subscribe right now so you won't miss any of our invaluable tips that truly have the power to transform your life for the better. Let's dive straight into what truly matters. One of the most widespread errors made by millions of people daily is storing raw potatoes in the refrigerator. It feels like a sensible decision, doesn't it? After all, cold is generally associated with preservation. Yet, with potatoes, the exact opposite occurs. The natural starch found within potatoes begins to convert into sugar at a significantly faster rate when it's exposed to the chilly environment of your fridge. And this is precisely where a serious problem arises. When these sugar-laden potatoes are then cooked, particularly at high temperatures such as baking or frying, that rapidly converted sugar reacts with amino acids to create a truly toxic compound called acrylamide. Yes, you heard that right, acrylamide. This is a substance that scientific research has consistently linked to an increased risk of several serious cancers, including ovarian, esophageal, kidney, and even endometrial cancer. Have you ever noticed a potato that looks excessively golden, perhaps a little too crispy, or even bears burnt-looking spots after cooking? That appealingly crispy crust, which many people thoroughly enjoy, is unfortunately often saturated with these very toxins. And the most concerning part? Even if your potato appears perfectly cooked and doesn't outwardly seem burnt, if it was stored in the refrigerator prior to its preparation, its acrylamide levels can be alarmingly high, even if you can't detect it by taste. Furthermore, the humidity present in a refrigerator inadvertently creates an ideal breeding ground for mold, various bacteria, and fungi. So, beyond the potential toxicity, the potato will also spoil more rapidly, becoming soft, discolored, and ultimately leading to you having to discard it. The optimal solution for storing potatoes is to revert to traditional methods. Keep them outside the fridge, in a cool, dry, and very well ventilated area, shielded from direct light. A basket or a breathable cloth bag is ideal, and plastic bags should always be avoided. Whenever possible, consuming potatoes with their skin on can even help stabilize your blood sugar levels. Lastly, when cooking, try to avoid temperatures exceeding 180 degrees, about 350 degrees. Now brace yourself, because the next mistake is even more prevalent in households everywhere: storing tomatoes in the refrigerator. It's common to see that crisper drawer often overflowing with them. However, what countless individuals don't realize is that the cold temperatures actively damage the internal membranes of a tomato, negatively impacting its texture and exquisite flavor. More critically, it significantly diminishes its nutritional value. When you place a tomato in the fridge, its natural ripening process comes to a screeching halt, and it is precisely this natural ripening that dramatically enhances the power of a potent antioxidant known as lycopene. Lycopene is celebrated for its protective effects against premature aging, its crucial role in cardiovascular health, its ability to combat inflammation, and its defense against certain types of cancer. It acts like a guardian, helping to reduce cellular oxidation, which you can think of as the quiet rusting of your body from within. Therefore, by refrigerating a tomato, you are effectively preventing this vital antioxidant from developing and working as it should. This also directly affects its texture. Who hasn't experienced biting into a cold, watery tomato with an unappealing, almost flavorless taste? That sensation is simply the cold, mercilessly destroying the fruit's delicate structure from the inside out. The solution, thankfully, is refreshingly simple. Store tomatoes outside the fridge, ideally in an airy basket, kept away from direct sunlight. Here's a clever tip. If you want to accelerate the ripening of a green tomato, simply place it near a banana or an apple. These fruits naturally release ethylene gas, which is a powerful agent in speeding up ripening. However, make sure to avoid eating tomatoes with prominent green parts, as these can contain solanine, a substance that can be toxic in larger quantities. Speaking of staples, let's move on to the third most common error that many of us make without a second thought: storing bread in the fridge, under the mistaken belief that it protects it from mold. This is a classic example of an attempt to preserve that actually backfires. The issue is that cold temperatures drastically accelerate the loss of moisture in bread and rapidly break down its delicate internal structure. The disheartening result is bread that quickly becomes hard, dry, and utterly devoid of its appealing aroma and comforting flavor. If you're dealing with whole grain or naturally fermented bread, the detrimental effects are even more pronounced. Furthermore, the very humidity within the refrigerator can ironically have the opposite effect of your intention. Instead of preventing mold, it often actively promotes its growth. It might seem counterintuitive because a refrigerator's interior feels dry, but there is actually a significant amount of humidity continuously circulating, which creates conditions that unfortunately accelerate mold formation on your bread. So what's the correct way to store bread? If you plan to consume it within 2 days, an airtight container or a breathable cloth bag kept away from light and humidity is your best bet. However, if you wish to store it for a longer period, then the safest and most effective method is to freeze it. Yes, freezing bread is the most reliable way to preserve its precious nutrients and minimize unnecessary waste. And there's an added benefit. When frozen bread is later heated in a toaster, oven, or even a skillet, it forms resistant starch, a special type of fiber that remarkably improves digestion, helps to stabilize your blood sugar levels, and beneficially feeds your crucial gut microbiota. Before we explore the next set of foods that are frequently stored incorrectly and potentially harming your health, please share in the comments below. Do you typically store any of these three foods, potatoes, tomatoes, or bread, in your refrigerator? And have you ever heard of acrylamide before today? Now let's continue with more vital insights. Have you ever put a hard, green avocado in the fridge, convinced it would ripen beautifully and last longer? Well, it's a very common practice, but it's essential to understand that this action can completely ruin the desirable texture, rich flavor, and essential nutrients of one of the healthiest fruits on earth. Avocados are particularly sensitive to cold, especially when they haven't yet reached their full ripeness. When they are refrigerated too early in their development, the delicate enzymes responsible for their natural ripening process are unfortunately deactivated. The outcome? A fruit that is disappointingly hard on the outside, often fibrous within, marred by unsightly dark spots, possessing an uncharacteristic bitter taste, and with a significantly lower concentration of its beneficial active compounds. What many people don't fully realize is that this simple timing mistake prevents the avocado from ever reaching its full nutritional potential. It loses a portion of its healthy fats, those crucial fibers that regulate your gut health, and vital antioxidants that are so important for both your heart and brain. The straightforward solution is to allow your avocado to ripen naturally outside the fridge at comfortable room temperature. Here's a quick and easy trick to speed up the process if you're in a hurry. Simply place the avocado in a paper bag alongside a banana or an apple. These fruits emit ethylene, a natural gas that powerfully stimulates ripening. In just 1 or 2 days, you'll typically have a perfectly ripe avocado ready for you to enjoy. Now, if the avocado is already ripe when you acquire it, then yes, you can store it in the fridge, but only for a maximum of about 2 days. If you've cut it open, preserve its freshness by drizzling a few drops of lemon juice or placing a slice of lime directly over the exposed pulp. This simple step helps prevent oxidation, keeping its vibrant green color and fresh flavor intact for longer. And if you anticipate not using it within a few days, freezing it is an excellent option. Frozen avocado remains remarkably nutritious, making it perfect for sauces, spreads, or homemade guacamole, and it can be stored this way for an impressive 6 months. Now pay very close attention, because the next food on our list is one of the most widely consumed globally, and yet it's almost always stored incorrectly. I'm talking about the humble banana. Most people, as soon as they bring bananas home from the market, instinctively place them directly into the refrigerator. This, unfortunately, is a mistake. The banana's peel is extraordinarily sensitive to cold temperatures. When it's refrigerated, the peel rapidly begins to darken, even if the delicious fruit inside remains perfectly good. This reaction isn't a sign of ripening, but rather a degradation of its natural pigments. And internally, the effects are even more pronounced. The cold drastically alters the banana's texture, rendering it mealy and less appealing, with an altered taste and fewer bioavailable nutrients. But here's a crucial detail that is often overlooked. The riper a banana becomes, the higher its glycemic index. This means that an overripe banana releases its sugars into your bloodstream much more quickly, causing undesirable spikes in both glucose and insulin. Over time, these spikes can trigger increased hunger, promote fat accumulation, and significantly raise the risk of developing serious conditions such as insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and even certain types of cancer. Therefore, the optimal way to enjoy a banana is when it's at just the right point of ripeness, characterized by a vibrant yellow peel, free of dark spots or overly soft areas. To store it effectively, always avoid the cold, and instead try this clever method. Wrap the stems of your bananas tightly with aluminum foil or plastic wrap. This simple act significantly slows down the release of ethylene gas, thereby delaying its natural ripening process and keeping your fruit fresh for a considerably longer period. If you have ripe bananas you won't use immediately and want to prevent waste, by all means, freeze them. Simply peel, slice, and store the portions in airtight containers or freezer bags, ready to be added later to smoothies, pancakes, or delicious, healthy desserts. We now arrive at a particularly critical point, discussing a powerful food that, if stored improperly, can unexpectedly transform into a genuine health risk. That food is garlic. Yes, garlic, so deservedly praised for its profound medicinal properties, can unfortunately lose much of its potency and beneficial compounds if you store it incorrectly in your refrigerator. Even more concerning, under certain specific conditions, improper storage can actually foster the growth of truly dangerous bacteria. Let's break this down clearly. When you store raw garlic in the fridge, especially if it has already been chopped or peeled, the cold temperatures unfortunately stimulate early sprouting. Those small green shoots that often emerge from the center of garlic cloves are a clear indication that the garlic's internal metabolism has shifted. This change dramatically reduces the presence of allicin, which is the single most important active compound in garlic, renowned for its potent anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and protective effects on both the heart and brain. However, the most significant and perilous problem arises when people prepare a homemade mixture of chopped garlic with olive oil, store it in a jar, and then leave it casually at room temperature. While this might seem like a practical shortcut for cooking, it is in fact extremely dangerous. This specific combination creates an absolutely perfect anaerobic environment for the rapid growth of Clostridium botulinum, the insidious bacterium that causes botulism. Botulism is a severe illness that can critically affect the nerves, lead to paralysis, and in extreme tragic cases, even result in death. So, what is the safest course of action? Always store whole garlic with its protective peel intact in a dry, cool, and airy place, shielded from direct light. If you prefer the convenience of having chopped garlic readily available without introducing these risks, freezing it is your best solution. Simply chop your garlic, place small portions into ice cube trays or freezer bags, and store them in the freezer. This method effectively preserves the flavor, allicin content, and critically, the safety of your garlic. Finally, we come to the last food on this essential list, and for many, it will be the most surprising revelation: honey. For countless years, honey has been widely regarded as a superior, healthier alternative to refined sugar. And it's true, honey does contain a wonderful array of natural compounds blessed with anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and antioxidant properties. However, all of these incredible benefits can be significantly wasted, or in some scenarios, even turn into a potential health risk if you unfortunately store your honey incorrectly. A prevalent error is storing honey in the refrigerator. Many people do this with the genuine intention of preserving it better, but paradoxically, the opposite effect occurs. Cold temperatures cause a natural process known as crystallization, where the honey's natural sugars begin to separate from the water content. This unwelcome change results in honey that becomes grainy, opaque, unpleasantly hard, and significantly more difficult to use. Herein lies the significant problem. When people observe their honey has crystallized, they often mistakenly believe it has spoiled, and then, in an attempt to rectify it, they resort to the worst possible methods, such as heating it in a microwave or directly in a pan. But when honey is heated above 40 degrees, approximately 104 degrees, it suffers a drastic loss of many of its delicate enzymes and powerful antioxidants. In essence, it loses much of its incredible medicinal potency and beneficial compounds. Therefore, the very best way to store honey is remarkably simple. Keep it at comfortable room temperature, safely housed in a tightly sealed jar, protected from direct sunlight and excessive humidity. His method will consistently preserve its natural, smooth texture, delightful aroma, and all its wonderful beneficial properties. Yet, there is one absolutely critical point that must be emphasized. Despite its natural origin, honey is undeniably rich in sugar, and this means that excessive consumption carries precisely the same health risks as consuming refined sugar. It will elevate your blood sugar levels, overwork your pancreas, increase your triglycerides, and can unfortunately promote fat accumulation in the liver, leading to chronic inflammation throughout your body. Honey is far from a harmless food. It is undeniably powerful and beneficial, yes, but it should be truly used like a potent medicine, strictly in moderation. A single teaspoon, perhaps once or twice a day, can be genuinely beneficial in very specific cases, such as for soothing a cold or a sore throat. However, habitually using it as a daily sugar substitute in everything you consume can ultimately have the complete opposite effect of what you are hoping to achieve. So, if you are consuming honey under the impression that it is unequivocally healthier than any other form of sugar, please exercise caution, because in the end, if consumed in excess, your body will react in fundamentally the same way, with undesirable insulin spikes, increased hunger, greater accumulation of abdominal fat, and a significantly higher risk of developing metabolic diseases. To quickly summarize, here are the 7 crucial foods you should immediately stop storing in your refrigerator to protect your health. Raw potatoes, which can become a dangerous source of acrylamide, a potentially carcinogenic compound. Tomatoes, which tragically lose their vibrant flavor, desirable texture, and vital antioxidants like lycopene when chilled. Bread, which becomes dry, loses its beneficial properties, and paradoxically encourages mold growth in the fridge. Avocados, which, if stored green, will halt their ripening and suffer a significant loss of essential nutrients. Bananas, whose peels darken prematurely, whose texture and flavor change, and whose glycemic index regrettably increases when refrigerated. Garlic, which can sprout, lose its potent allicin, and, terrifyingly, even cause botulism if stored improperly, especially with oil. And finally, honey, which crystallizes in the cold and loses its invaluable properties if then overheated in an attempt to correct its texture. If you've discovered that you've been making one or more of these common mistakes, please do not blame yourself. The vast majority of people make these choices genuinely believing they are protecting their health and their food. But now, armed with this crucial truth, you possess the knowledge to make simple, immediate changes that will profoundly better protect both your food and your precious body. Please share in the comments below, which of these mistakes have you unknowingly made until today? Do you currently refrigerate any of these foods, truly believing you are doing the right thing for your health? If this important information has helped you in any way, please take a moment to like this video, share it widely with someone in your family or circle of friends who could benefit, and be sure to subscribe to the Global Health Guide channel for more life-changing advice. I look forward to seeing you in our next video.